Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today our group will be presenting on the topic Liberalism Theory in International Relations. The questions that we have choose is explain and elaborate liberalism theory in international relations. So as for this presentation, our group members consist of 4 members. The first one is NURUL HANIS AINY binti Abdul Hanapi, Putri ALYAA SAFIAH binti MEGAT ANUAR, FARHANIS YASMIN binti ZAMRI, and Muhammad NAUFAL ADIB bin FAZLAN. Without further ado, let us begin our presentation. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So let's jump to the introduction of liberalism. Liberalism is one of the most influential political ideologies in the modern world. It emphasizes individual freedom, equality, human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. Liberalism believes that people should have the freedom to make their own choices. As long as they do not harm others, it also supports limited government intervention, free markets, and protection of civil liberties. Today, liberalism has shaped the political, economic, social system of many democratic countries. Now, I will explain the founding father of liberalism. The founding father of liberalism is John Locke, an English philosopher who lived from 1632 to 1704. He is known as the father of liberalism because his ideas became the foundation of modern liberal thought. John Locke believed that every person is born with natural rights, which are the right to live, liberty, and property. According to him, the government's main responsibility is to protect this right. He also believed that government should only rule with the consent of the people. If government fail to protect the people's rights or becomes unfair, the people have the right to replace it. His idea later influenced many democratic movements, including the American Revolution and the French Revolution. Next, let's look at the key concept of liberalism. The first concept is individual freedom. This means everyone has the freedom to make their own choices as long as they do not harm others. The second concept is equality. Liberalism believes that everyone is equal before the law and should have equal opportunities regardless of their background. The third concept is human right. Every individual has basic rights such as the right to live, liberty, and privacy, and these rights should always be protected. The fourth concept is democracy. People have the right to choose their leaders through free and fair election, and the government should be accountable to the people. The fifth concept is the rule of law. This means everyone must follow the law equally, including government officials. No one is above the law. The sixth concept is limited government. Liberalism believes that government power should be limited to prevent abuse and to protect individual freedom. Finally, the seventh concept is the free market economy. Liberalism supports private ownership and free competition with only limited government intervention in the economy. These 7 concepts show that liberalism focuses on protecting individual rights and promoting equality and ensuring the government serves to the people.
Thank you, AINY. Now that we know the historical context, I will now be presenting the main arguments, characteristics, and a real-world example of liberalism in international relations. Let's look at the main arguments first. Liberalism holds an optimistic view of world politics. Our main argument is that the international system does not have to be a constant state of war. Instead, peace is highly achievable through global cooperation, economic interdependence, and the active roles of non-state actors like MNCs and international organizations. Next, what are the main characteristics of liberalism? It is best explained through the liberal tripod, the 3 essential pillars that sustain global peace. The first pillar is democracy, rooted in the democratic peace theory. This characteristic explains that a state's internal political structure directly influences its foreign policy. Democratic nations operate on a system of checks and balance. Leaders cannot easily declare war because they are accountable to the rule of law and to their citizens who hold the power to vote. Therefore, when two democracies face a conflict, they naturally prefer negotiation over military aggression. The second pillar is free trade or economic interdependence. Liberalism emphasizes that economic globalization reshapes international security. When borders are opened for free trade, nations become deeply interconnected for raw materials, technology, and consumer markets. This creates a global value chain, and consequently, the cost of going to war becomes irrationally high, as any conflict would mutually destroy the economies and investments of both nations. And the third pillar is international institutions, known as liberal institutionalism. This characteristic argues that even in an anarchic world, order can be maintained. Liberalism believes that global organizations like the UN, WTO, and ASEAN act as crucial trust builders, and these institutions provide formal rules, reduce misinformation, and ensure that member states abide by international law and mutual agreements. To prove this theory, the role of international institutions like the UN is the prime example of liberal institutionalism. This organization proves the liberal argument that international law and diplomacy can replace military might. When trade or political conflicts arise, countries have a formal platform to negotiate and resolve issues peacefully. For example, the territorial dispute over Ligitan and Sipidan Island between Malaysia and Indonesia. Both nations agreed to submit the case to the UN's International Court of Justice, peacefully accepted the final ruling, and successfully avoided military escalation. With that, I have covered the core mechanics of liberalism, and I will now pass the floor to NAUFAL.
Now, I would like to discuss the impact of liberalism on international relations. First, liberalism promotes international cooperation among states. Unlike realism, which focuses on power competition and conflict, liberalism believes that countries can work together through diplomacy, negotiation, and international institutions. According to Robert Cohen in 1984, international institutions help states cooperate by reducing uncertainty and encouraging them to follow common rules and norms. This can be seen through organizations such as the United Nations, which provide a platform for countries to discuss and resolve global issues peacefully. Second, liberalism strengthens economic interdependence among states. Liberal scholars argue that countries are less likely to engage in conflict when they are economically connected through trade and investment. Cohen and Nye introduced the concept of complex interdependence in 1977, which explains that states are linked through various economic, political, and social relationships. As a result, cooperation becomes more beneficial and conflict because war could negatively affect all parties involved. This can be observed in the global trading system and organizations such as the World Trade Organization. Third, liberalism promotes democracy and international law. Immanuel Kant argued that democratic countries tend to maintain peaceful relations with one another because they share common values and respect legal principles. This idea later developed into the democratic peace theory. Furthermore, international law provides guidelines for state behavior and helps maintain order within the international system. In conclusion, liberalism has had a significant impact on international relations by encouraging cooperation, strengthening economic interdependence, and promoting democratic and international law. These contributions continue to influence global politics and help create a more stable and peaceful international system. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. So for this section, I will discuss the lesson learned from the liberalism theory in international relations. So the first lesson is that the cooperation between the state is possible, unlike the realism, which view the international politics as a constant struggle for power. Liberalism believes that countries can work together to achieve the common goals. Through the diplomacy, negotiation, and agreement, state can solve problem peacefully rather than through the conflict. So the second lesson is the international institution promote the stability. Organizations such as the United Nations provide a platform for countries to communicate, cooperate, and resolve the dispute. This institution help reduce misunderstanding and encourage peaceful relations among the states. So lastly is the democracy encourage peace. Liberals believe that democratic countries are generally less likely to go to war with one another because leaders are accountable to their citizens. As a result, democratic governments tend to prefer the dialogue and cooperation over the violence. Overall, liberalism teaches us that peace can be achieved through the cooperation, institution, and democratic values. Now, I will talk about the comparison. The first advantage is that the economic independence can reduce the likelihood of the war. When the countries trade and invest in one another, they become economically connected. Because conflict could harm both sides economically, countries are more likely to maintain the peaceful relationship. The second one, the liberalism recognized the role of non-state actors such as non-governmental organization, multinational cooperation, and the international organization. These actors can influence the international relations by promoting the development, the humanitarian aid, the environmental protection, and the global cooperation. So, therefore, the liberalism provide a broader understanding of the international relation by considering both state and other important actors in the global system. Despite its strength, the liberalism also have the disadvantage. Firstly, the economic independence does not always guarantee peace. Although the trade can encourage the cooperation, the countries may still experience the conflict due to the political disagreement, the territorial dispute, or the security concern. Lastly, the liberalism may underestimate the power politic and security concern, which are emphasized by the realists. In reality, many states still prioritize the national security, the military strength, and the national interest over the cooperation. As a result, critics argue that liberalism can sometimes be too optimistic about the willingness of the countries to cooperate. That's all from me. I'll pass to the next presenter to conclude the presentation.
In conclusion, liberalism provides an important perspective in understanding international relations by emphasizing freedom, cooperation, democracy, and respect for individual rights. Inspired by the ideas of John Locke, liberalism argues that states are capable of working together through diplomacy, international institutions, and economic interdependence rather than relying on conflict and war. The theory highlights how organizations such as the United Nations and international courts can help resolve dispute peacefully, as demonstrated by the Legitan and Sipadan Island case. Although liberalism has some limitations, particularly on explaining power struggles and security concerns, it remains highly relevant in today's interconnected world. Overall, liberalism teaches that peace, stability, and prosperity can be achieved when states choose cooperation, uphold international law, and promote democratic values for the benefit of global community. And that is all from us. Thank you for watching.